There was a big story in The Athletic about Matt Carpenter, who has struggled badly. I mean, he's dropped off the map. There's no getting around it, okay? And he was making big money from the Cardinals, which, look, there's people that have it worse in life. I get that. You know, he's got a ton of money. But, I mean, this was not an easy situation as a professional athlete for Matt Carpenter. So the story came out that he's, obviously he's not the same guy, and so he was trying to figure it out, which he has been, by the way, for a couple of years, what's going on. So he went to our friend Matt Holliday. He also went to Joey Votto of the Reds, and Votto told him, you can fix this. There's still gas left in the tank. Anyway, that's The Athletic that had the story. Interesting for, all we're reading about is the labor dispute, so it's something about Matt Carpenter.
And you know him close.
So I've gotten to know him.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to say we're best friends. We're just guys that work together, but I get to see these guys. And he's done some stuff, for charity that I've asked him to do without blinking. He's a good guy. I've seen him when things are not going well. I've seen him when things are going well. I think he's a very good person. So all I said was, Matt Carpenter's trying to rediscover his swing. I root for him. He's a good guy. And, most people agreed, and, whatever. But I was getting a ton of blowback, like, why hasn't he been trying to fix his swing for 3 years? Or I'm not rooting for a guy who was making, $18 million. And I don't get mad on Twitter. I don't care. It's like a game. Twitter's a game.
It is.
Right? I try to put stuff on there that I think's funny or that I think people will like. And if they don't like it, that's fine. That's their opinion. I don't take it personally. But I was just, it was interesting to me, the animosity that I found in some of these tweets toward me even posting saying I'm rooting for a guy. I never said bring him back. I never said it wasn't his fault. I never
feel
said
sorry for him.
I never said he shouldn't be making I never said. All I said was good guy, root for him.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was interesting. So I thought Matt Carpenter would be a good topic because at his best, aside from the fact where he started hitting home runs as a leadoff hitter guy with no speed, he was an elite level leadoff hitter. On base percentage, I think of like 391 for a stretch, which put him in the upper echelon of leadoff hitters and on base percentage guys. And then you factor in that he never was a great fielder, but I mean they put him at third, they put him at first, they put him at second. Yep. He had some really good years for the Cardinals.
He finished fourth in the MVP that year. You're talking about fourth in the MVP. A guy who, what was he drafted? 13th round. 13th round as a super senior. Probably got a bus ticket when he was drafted, honestly. Yep. So I read this article, a lot of very interesting things. What I thought was, and I think we should talk about this for a while because I think Cardinal fans are into it. So Matt Carpenter said that you go and one of these tests for bat speed, that they test you with this rotational strength medicine ball workouts. There's 3 of them, and one of them is a vertical jump, so your leg strength, your leg explosiveness. The other 2 are with medicine balls. They're kind of like chest presses from a sit-up position, chest presses, from different positions to gauge your rotational strength and basically kind of put you on the average bat speed-wise of Major League Baseball. I thought it was very interesting that he's still rated above average for Major League Baseball players. So what does that tell you? So that tells you by those exercises that it's not because he's too old. It's not because he lost it, right? Now, you can blame the shift, and also the shift, I'm sure, gets in your head mentally, but I draw the same conclusion that Matt Carpenter drew, which is if you still got it from a bat speed point of view, then it's your swing. It's your swing that's messed up. It's something
like
mechanically.
What? Like his stance or...
Well, just keeping your bat head, your barrel through the zone long enough to make consistent contact. And I do think specifically with Matt Carpenter, the shift did crush him. You can also say, okay, he bought in too much the home run. I get that. What I think is hilarious, though, because Matt Carpenter is such a lightning rod with the Cardinal fan base, I do root for him. And by the way, we live and work in St. Louis, so I want the Cardinals to do well. But I'm not really a Cardinals fan. I didn't grow up.
Ooh.
But my point is, I also root for chaos. And I think for a storyline, nothing would be juicier. Nothing would be juicier. Then let's say Matt Carpenter gets a nice 1-year deal with, let's say the Reds.
I love you.
Where you have Joey Votto, who just helped him. Where you have David Bell. right? As the manager, let's say he DHs a little bit there, and let's say he hits, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what if he finds the swing? What if he hits 23 homers for the Reds and starts beating the Cardinals? Again, Cardinal Twitter, Cardinal fans, their heads will explode, and I always root for juicy storylines, and I like Matt Carpenter as a person, so I hope he bounces back. Although I don't know if I would bet on it.
It is confusing, man, because it's kind of like golf, too, when you lose your swing a little bit. But how do you lose it for 3 years when you still have the power? Like, does that happen to a lot of guys? When
it happened to Votto.
Okay,
that's why he went to Votto.
His strength was there. His timing was off. So it's all mental.
Well, no, it's mechanical. Well, it's always with baseball. There's always a mental component. But when he did those strength tests, because look, he said if Votto told him, "Dude, you're done. You don't got it," he's like, "All right, I'm done." But when Votto said, "No, I went through the same thing, and if all these exercises you just did show you have not lost your bat speed, it's not like you're over the hill. It's a mechanical tweak you could make, or a combination, something mental. So that's something you can fix. That's not old age."
Yeah. And with Carpenter watching him, just the eye test, there were times his bat looked really slow, and I know there were times too he was weak. Like he was dealing with fatigue and stuff like that, so maybe that's an issue that factors in. But I do think he changed as a hitter. First of all, the story of him making it, I mean, he was a heavy-set kid in college, and they said you got to lose weight. And I forget, there was his dad is a coach and hooked him up with a major league player who paid for him to get himself in shape. So he's a self-made man, Matt Carpenter, and a really, really good guy. But I do think he changed as a hitter because when he first came up, he'd go the other way. He would use the whole plate, and then he became a guy who would hunt for a certain pitch and hit it over the wall. And I do think maybe that factor. I mean, I'm not a hitting coach, and there's certainly a lot smarter people, but I do think that's part of the equation as you try to figure out where he is. He changed as a hitter once he started hitting home runs. Do you guys agree with that?
I do, and I also think if you look at that year, he hit 36 homers, which, by the way, he finished 9th in the MVP voting. You could even see, though, at the end of that year that he was trending downward. And I can bring up, I don't want to get too statty, but if you remember that year, he went crazy. I think it was July. He went crazy.
He had a 2-month that was historic.
I mean, 2 months were so unbelievable that he almost made his entire season off the 2 months. And then if you look at what happened after the fact, you could start to see that, okay, look, this was a great couple months, but this wasn't the hitter that he was for the whole season. He got red hot, and towards the end there, he starts to fall off, and he gets the extension before they had to give him that because he was still under control for the next season.
And that's where I think the animosity comes in. Yeah. But so he got off to like an historically bad start, right, where people said it's over, this guy lost it. And then he goes on a 2-month binge that Babe Ruth would have looked at and said, I can't do that. I mean, it was that good. And then he did tail off at the end, but he did get the contract. I understand Cardinal fans, because they're so plugged in, thought, we pulled the trigger too soon and it cost us, right? So I get that. But my thing is, I hope he can find it. I don't think it's going to be here, but I do. That's why I love you, Charlie. Like you just said on the air, you're hoping just for the chaos aspect that he goes elsewhere and has a great season.
Well, look,
I admire. Yeah. It would be fun.
Here's the deal. There's also this thing, Cam, you know this. Sometimes you need a change of scenery. I know that's a cliche,
it's true,
and
though.
You can't always break it down, but guess what? Sometimes a hitting coach works for some and not for others. And I'm not even trying to blame Jeff Albert, because guess what? Tyler O'Neill, clearly flourishing under Jeff Albert. Sometimes you got to just get away. Sometimes a team not wanting you back is an eye-opener. It does rededicate you in the offseason. Maybe you seek out different voices. You go to a new team. I do think he's going to try to play somewhere. Clearly, this article doesn't come out if Matt Carpenter, this is basically the start of his free agency. Like, look, teams, I want to play. Give me a shot. And I love that. And
he'll be a fit for somebody.
Yes, even if it's a bench guy. Yeah. Whatever it is. I always thought Texas Rangers, because he could kind of live down there close to home. And it looks like Texas is now actually trying to win. I don't know. He'll find a job if he can hit, even if it's a minor league deal. If he hits a little bit, he'll find his way onto a big league roster. In no way, shape, or form am I saying the Cardinals should bring him back. That ship has sailed. And you know what? He had a great run, He might be a Cardinals Hall of Famer. I think he will be.
Yeah.
That can be a different debate. So you should enjoy the times he was here. He needs to go somewhere else. And if he goes somewhere else, why are we mad if he does well?
Right.
And again, when the Reds are good, it makes everything more fun. Nick Castellanos last year, that made that rivalry fun. Can you imagine if Matt Carpenter is hitting a game-winning double against the Cardinals? I know Cardinal fans, you're not going to like it. That's spicy.
It is. It's like a salsa.
It is.
Please clip that off.
Just
Put
like
the
a
time down.
salsa.
That's spicy.
I mean, come on.
I want that as a drop.
Is it not more fun to watch the Cardinals take on the Brewers with Nyjer Morgan, to take on the Reds with everything going on back in the day, with Brandon Phillips, with Johnny Cueto? I mean, there's never anything interesting with the Pirates. But when the Cubs rivalry is fun,
Pirate fan, that angry Pirate fan.
That one angry Pirate fan. When Chris Bryant is saying that St. Louis is boring and we overreact and act like it was a really terrible thing to say when it was a passing comment.
And like it's not true.
Yes, no doubt.
Relatively speaking.
I mean, it is what it is.
It's good. No, you're right. And in terms of Jeff Albert, I know he's another lightning rod. And I get why, when the team isn't hitting, you look at the hitting coach. But I've said this before. You're dealing with major leaguers who have been through high school, sometimes college, minor leagues. Everyone has their own hitting guru that isn't the hitting coach of the major league team. I don't put it all on the hitting coach. It isn't like everyone's sitting around, he's got a clipboard. Like he's instituting informational, background things for players to use, techniques that the organization would prefer. But that doesn't mean that the hitting coach is responsible when the team doesn't hit, right? Especially major leaguers who have been around that are stars. They have their own hitting guys somewhere else. And so they take what the hitting coach is suggesting, possibly, or they do their own thing. So I don't think the hitting coach has like a magic button that he can push and suddenly make everyone hit. By the same token, as Charlie points out, in the second half, everybody hit. So if you're going to blame Jeff Albert for them not hitting, then you have to say, the second half when everyone hit, that's because Jeff Albert was doing a great job.
And by the way, I said on the radio at the midpoint of last year, I thought it would be fine if Jeff Albert got fired. And that was not based on half a season. It was based on 2.5 seasons. And I know part of that was a pandemic-shortened season, but I do think you were looking at 2.5 years' worth of data. They have rebounded. There's a lot of factors. Nobody's saying it's just Jeff Albert's fault.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to make a change. Yeah, I don't even argue that. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. When you're also going into that discussion, you think about who's easiest to fire. You can't fire players. Usually, who's easier to fire?
Well, at 590, it's me.
That's true. But it's usually
bring it for yourself.
It's usually easier to fire an assistant hitting coach or a hitting coach than the manager. And by the way, I'm not saying that Mike Schilt was let go just because of the chasm between he and Jeff Albert, but I think we all can agree it was a factor.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
We don't know exactly.
I agree
what
that
happened.
we all agree upon our agreement. 855-282-8255. I'm not a hater. At least I try not to be. But I think the question about why do this now instead of 2 years ago is legit. He did not notice he was hitting the last two. He wasn't hitting the last 2 years. Was not getting re-signed a shock, really? 314?
You don't think he was trying the last couple of years, though?
Please. Of course. If you're a member of the Cardinals and you're doing everything humanly possible to be a good player, which you were for the bulk of your major league career, I got to go to Joey Votto. Basically what it tells me, he was out of options, so he was asking anyone. I went to Charlie Marlowe, and Marlowe pointed out a couple things he noticed. Now I'm hitting.
Turn them hips.
Why didn't you go to Marlowe first?
And by the way, somebody on the text line, I said a Cardinals Hall of Famer, and I think he will be in that Cardinals Hall of Fame. Do you not agree?
I don't know if it's surefire, but it'll certainly get looked at.
I think eventually Matt Carpenter gets into the Cardinals Hall of Fame. I didn't say Cooperstown. Okay? And if you don't think there's going to be a groundswell for Matt Carpenter to get in the Cardinals Hall of Fame about 7 years from now, you don't know Cardinal fans. All right? Here's the other part. You can talk logically and say, yes, the Cardinals shouldn't have given Matt Carpenter that extension. You can say Matt Carpenter did not live up to that extension. That's an obvious point. Do you really think he's like, I got my $18 million. I'm not going to try.
I'm done.
I'm not going to try anymore. Do you really?
I like when the fans.
Do you
chirp
really
me.
think he wasn't trying?
Come on now, like
are we that naive?
And like Matt Carpenter is known as, it's cliche.
He works
one of
too
the guys,
hard.
right? That one of the guys that overdoes it. So you imagine, and again, I'm not comparing this to people that are worried about putting food on the table. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's not even pretend we are. From a professional athlete standpoint, you're telling me that a guy who had been at the top of Major League Baseball in the MVP conversation is now a 200 hitter who can't turn on a fastball.
Still has power.
Can you imagine going to the ballpark every day, more so than other sports, right? Because you're playing every single day. That's a dark cloud.
Oh,
God. If you're a great baseball player, like that was your escape. You're going to the ballpark. That's your wheelhouse. Yep. And all of a sudden, you have to go because that's your job, and you're lost at the plate. That can't be easy.
And look, man, you can't hide from it. I don't care if you're on social media or not. Like you feel the pressure on you, and you're right. Speaking of dark cloud, that gets you. It ages you.
And for the texture about Joey Votto, nobody said it's an exact comparison. Joey Votto, a career 300 hitter, hit 226 during the COVID-shortened season. For 2 years, a man whose career OBP was around 420 and he was leading the league went down to the 350s. So I understand it was not as a precipitous of a drop as Matt Carpenter, but he also fell off the table, and he found it last year. That's the point. Joey Votto, at the age of 37, around the exact same age as Matt Carpenter is now, they're both left-handed hitters. Nobody's saying they're the same. Joey Votto should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, okay? He's a different stratosphere of player, even though Matt Carpenter's really good. Joey Votto's numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they're the same type of player. Left-handed hitters. Probably at this point, Carpenter's more of a first baseman DH, right? They've had to work around the shift. They're big walk guys. They're big OBP, see a lot of pitches. So you understand why Carpenter would go to a guy like Joey Votto, who thinks the same in the box, around the same age, and also struggled for 2 years and then found it, which is what Matt Carpenter's trying to do.
And no one ever said Votto has the greatest bat speed in baseball. So I think they're comparable on that level, too. They're guys that are, in the middle, but have it figured out, when to swing and how to swing.
Votto's always been really good at adjusting to pitches, too, like how he chokes up with 2 strikes. And I feel like Carpenter has the same approach no matter what the count is, what's in the hole.
Unless he's hunting for a fastball that he could put over the wall.
They also both get criticized for the same reason. They see too many pitches. They take too many called strike threes, knowing it's because their eye is so good, it's better than the umpire. They know it's a millimeter outside, but guess what? The umpire is going to ring you up on that every once in a while.
Yep. 855-282-8255, Bertarelli Cutlery text line. Cam, thank you. Sports talk now. Love Carpenter, but he was bad for the last 3 years. I think everybody somewhat agrees on that. I mean, that's
hot take. Wow.
That's
who didn't say that?
That's a Seth hot take.
That's what to me was interesting when I just said I'm rooting for the guy. He's a good guy. Like,
yeah, look, you have to evaluate different players too. Like you deal with so many damn players over the years. He's in a good guy category. That's it. He does good things. You call him, you text him, he's going to do a video for you. Like, that's what you put him in a good guy. That's why I root for him.
And then it's funny because people were like, one time someone tweeted, and it's just someone on Twitter. But someone said, yeah, he's not a good guy. I was in San Francisco with my wife, and we ran into him, and we said hi, and he didn't acknowledge us. Like, I just want to say this. I care about Cardinal fans because they're our customers, and they've always been nice to me. Like, I have East Coast values, and I'm from another part of the country. Yeah. But they've always been nice, and so I always try to return that. Like I make time because Cardinal fans to me are the people I've come, excellent people. They're always nice. But I'm sure there's someone at some point when I'm running to get from A to B to do a live hit that maybe I didn't stop and say hi to, and they think I'm a jerk. Like, I don't think there's anyone that could put more effort into being kind to Cardinal fans because they're our customers and they're nice to me, but you can't be great to everyone at every second, and that one person is going to go on Twitter and kill you.
We have those days, man. We have those days. You're just annoyed by everything.
Here's another part of this. We're talking about baseball and actual stuff on the field, which is good. We have this lockout going on. It doesn't look like there's a lot of progress. Another thing they're not even really discussing is the biggest issue, which is that baseball is boring. Let's be real. And so you're telling me as we're grinding through a 162-game season, which, let's be real, sometimes it can be boring on a Tuesday night. If Matt Carpenter for the Cincinnati Reds on a Tuesday hits a game-winning double in the gap, against the Cardinals, I mean, I'm sorry. That's a storyline, man. That would be super interesting. Come on now.
Can't it be a game tying double in the 7th and then the Cardinals come back to win?
I mean, the Cardinals aren't going to go 162-0.
I think they'd be like, good job, Matt. I don't think it'd be that dramatic.
No, their minds would explode.
I think they'd give them the tip of the cap.
Okay, but it would be entertaining.
It would be entertaining.
I think it would. I think it would be entertaining if they were pissed. Because he did.
I don't think they would be pissed.
I don't think they'd be pissed at all.
Dude, a lot of Cardinal fans. I'm telling you, bring up Matt Carpenter. We started this conversation. The reason we started this is because Jim Hayes even saying, "I hope he does well." People are going crazy.
No. I'm saying at the ballpark, if Matt Carpenter's here and he hits a bomb to win it, I bet you the fans will even clap for him.
I think it'd be a lot of that, but there was a great broadcaster who phrased it perfectly, who said it would be spicy, and I agree with that. I think that's the perfect description. It would be spicy, especially on a Tuesday night. It'd be like having Bloody Mary, delicious.
Oh,
delicious.
From the Shack, delicious. Let's go. KP chimes in and goes, "I've always been a Pat Paris guy." All right. Anyway,
me too. By the way,
he's a great guy.